There is a specific kind of pain that nobody warns you about. It is not the pain of failure. It is not the pain of losing money or losing a job. It is the pain that arrives quietly in the middle of a perfectly ordinary evening when you look around and realize that the person sitting across from you, the person you have known for years, the person you have trusted with your fears and your secrets and your most private thoughts, does not actually see you the way you thought they did. They see what you are useful for. And that realization, when it finally lands, does not come with noise. It comes with silence. A heavy, hollow silence that sits in your chest and does not leave. If you have ever felt that, if that description touched something real inside you, then what you are about to hear in the next few minutes was made for you. Not for a general audience. Not for people who are comfortable. For the person who is sitting alone right now, who has been through something that has quietly shaken their confidence in other people, and who is trying to figure out what comes next. Stay with this, because what we are going to talk about today might be the most honest conversation you have had in a long time. And before we go any further, if you have not already subscribed to Silent Strategist, do it now. Not because it is a formality, because what gets shared on this channel is not motivational fluff. It is the kind of thinking that most people never encounter, and once you do, the way you move through the world quietly changes. Subscribe, and let's get into this. There is something that Niccolò Machiavelli understood about human nature that most people in his time refused to accept, and that most people today still refuse to accept, because accepting it requires you to let go of a very comfortable illusion. The illusion is this, that people at their core are good, that loyalty is the natural default, that the people in your life are there because they care about you. Machiavelli looked at the courts of Florence, brutal, political, full of alliances that crumbled overnight. And he wrote something that has survived 500 years because it is simply uncomfortably true. He said that men are ungrateful, fickle, and driven far more by self-interest than by principle. He was not being cynical for the sake of it. He was being honest in a way that most people are too afraid to be. Now, here is what that means for you. If you are operating your relationships, your friendships, your professional connections on the assumption that people will naturally act with integrity because that is what you would do, you are making a strategic error. And that error is not harmless. It costs you time. It costs you trust. It costs you something that is very difficult to rebuild once it is gone, which is your confidence in your own ability to read other people accurately. Most of us do not learn this lesson the first time. We learn it the hard way after something happens that we did not see coming. After someone we depended on showed us, in a moment of pressure, exactly who they actually are. And the worst part is not the betrayal itself. The worst part is looking back and realizing the signs were there, the patterns were visible. Something felt slightly off, and we chose to explain it away because acknowledging it felt too uncomfortable. We painted the red flags white. We told ourselves a story that made the situation easier to live inside. And we paid for that comfort later. This is what we are going to work through today. The hidden patterns that reveal whether someone in your life can genuinely be trusted. Not the obvious tells, the person who is openly rude or clearly dishonest. Those people are easy to identify and easy to distance yourself from. We're talking about the subtle ones. The ones who are warm on the surface, the ones who feel close, the ones who might be sitting in your circle right now and who you would never think to question. Because that is exactly who Machiavelli was warning us about. Not the enemy standing in front of you, the one standing beside you. Before we go any further, think about something for a moment. Think about the most significant disappointment you have experienced in a relationship, not a romantic one necessarily. Just any person you trusted who eventually showed you something you were not prepared for. When you look back at that relationship with honest eyes, were there moments early on that felt slightly unusual? Moments where something in your gut noticed an inconsistency, but your mind talked you out of paying attention to it? Almost everyone answers yes to that question, because the instinct to protect our existing relationships is incredibly powerful. We want things to be okay. We want the people we have invested in to be worthy of that investment, and so we rationalize. We stay. Machiavelli did not believe in operating on instinct alone. He believed in patterns. He believed that if you want to understand what a person will do in the future, you stop listening to what they say, and you start studying what they have already done. Words are cheap. Intentions are invisible. But behavior, consistent behavior across time and across different circumstances, that is the only reliable data you have. And if you know what specific patterns to look for, you stop being surprised. You start being prepared. The first pattern is one that catches intelligent, empathetic people off guard more than almost anything else, precisely because it looks like something positive. It looks like trust. It looks like openness. It looks like the beginning of a genuine connection. You meet someone, a new colleague, a neighbor, someone at a gathering, and very quickly, before you have had enough time to really know each other, they begin telling you something personal, something heavy, a difficult chapter of their past. A secret they say they have never shared with anyone else. An experience that is painful and private, and that makes you feel, for a moment, genuinely honored that they chose you. Your empathy activates immediately. You feel a pull toward them. You feel responsible for them in some small way. Here is what you need to understand about that moment. Real closeness is slow. It is built incrementally over time, through repeated experiences of showing up for each other, through seeing how someone handles difficulty, through the gradual accumulation of evidence that this person is who they present themselves to be. What does not happen in real, healthy relationships is someone handing you their deepest wound before they even know your last name. That is not intimacy. That is strategy. Whether the person doing it is conscious of the strategy or not is almost irrelevant. The effect is the same. It creates an immediate sense of debt in you. They gave you something personal, something vulnerable. Now the social contract of human interaction quietly expects you to give something back. And so you lower your guard. You share something of your own. And now they have information, real personal information, about your insecurities, your fears, your private life. Information that, if this person is not who you are hoping they are, can and will be used. There is another dimension to this pattern that is important to see clearly. A person who has no internal filter around what they share with strangers is also a person who has no internal filter around what they share about you with the next person they meet. Loyalty requires discretion. It requires the ability to hold something private. If someone is willing to walk into a new relationship and immediately expose their own most private experiences, they are demonstrating something about how they manage information. And what they are demonstrating is not reassuring. The right response when you encounter this pattern is not to become cold. It is not to dismiss the person or assume the worst. It is simply to notice it and to hold back. Listen. Be kind. Do not contribute your own vulnerabilities in return. Keep your cards face down. Real trust earns its way in slowly. Anyone trying to rush that process is, consciously or not, attempting to bypass the natural safeguards that protect you. Do not let them. If you are finding this valuable, and if you know someone who has been through a situation where they were blindsided by someone they trusted, share this with them. Put it in front of them. Sometimes the most useful thing one person can do for another is hand them a framework that helps them make sense of something they could not previously articulate. The second pattern is more subtle, and in some ways more dangerous because it hides behind the appearance of wisdom. It presents itself as maturity, as perspective, as the calm reasonableness of someone who does not rush to judgment. You have heard the language before. I do not want to get involved. I try to see all sides. I do not think it is my place to take a position. These sentences sound thoughtful. They sound balanced. In certain contexts, that kind of careful neutrality is genuinely appropriate. But in the context of a real relationship, when you are in a conflict, when someone has wronged you, when you need to know where the person beside you actually stands, neutrality is not wisdom, it is evasion. Machiavelli wrote about this with unusual directness. He argued that when two forces are in opposition, The person who tries to remain neutral ends up being despised by both sides and trusted by neither. But more importantly for our purposes, he understood what neutrality reveals about the character of the person practicing it. When someone chooses not to take a side in a situation where a side clearly needs to be taken, they are not being objective. They are protecting their own comfort. They are making a calculation about what will cost them the least socially, the least emotionally, the least in terms of their own reputation and their own access to people. And they are making that calculation at your expense. Think about a moment when you were genuinely in the right, when someone had treated you unfairly, or lied about you, or taken something from you, and you reached out to someone you considered a close friend and asked for their support. Now think about how that friend responded. Did they stand beside you clearly and without hesitation? Or did they say something like, "I hear you, but I also understand where they might be coming from"? That second response, delivered in the soft language of understanding and perspective, is a form of abandonment. It is dressed up in reasonableness, but what it communicates is this: I value my own comfort and my own social position more than I value standing with you when it actually costs something. This matters because loyalty is only meaningful when it is tested. Anybody can be supportive when nothing is at stake. The real question is what a person does when supporting you requires them to risk something, their own reputation, someone else's goodwill, their own sense of social safety. The person who consistently steps back at exactly that moment is not a neutral party. They are simply someone whose self-interest has consistently proven stronger than their loyalty to you. And once you see that clearly, you cannot unsee it. The practical test for this is straightforward. The next time you are in a situation where a decision or a direction needs to be chosen, and you have one of these people in the room, make a direct ask. Not a general question about what they think, but a specific request for where they stand. Look them in the eye and ask directly. Hold the space and do not fill it. Watch what happens. A person who genuinely has your back will give you a real answer. A person who is running a self-preservation calculation will do everything they can to avoid giving you one. That moment of avoidance is information. Treat it as such. Now, there is a third pattern, and this one requires the most careful attention because it is the most sophisticated, and because the person displaying it is often the most charismatic and compelling individual in your immediate environment. They are the one who speaks loudest about their own virtue. The one who makes a point of letting everyone know that they are honest, that they are loyal, that they are the kind of person who always does the right thing. They post about their values. They talk about their principles. They are, in their own narration of themselves, almost impossibly good. And that is precisely what makes them worth watching very carefully. There is a concept in psychology called reaction formation. It describes a process where a person projects the opposite of what they actually are, not always consciously, but as a way of managing the gap between who they are and who they believe they should be. The person who shouts the loudest about honesty is often the one who is most actively managing the discomfort of their own dishonesty. The person who talks constantly about how much they hate drama is usually the one creating it. The person who makes their loyalty a centerpiece of their identity is frequently the one whose loyalty is most conditional and most subject to revision when circumstances change. Machiavelli understood this mechanism centuries before psychology gave it a name. He wrote that it is not necessary to actually possess all the virtues only to appear to possess them. He was advising a prince on strategy, but he was also describing something that natural manipulators understand intuitively. The best way to avoid scrutiny for your actual behavior is to be so loudly, visibly, performatively virtuous that challenging you seems unreasonable. How could you possibly question someone who volunteers every weekend, who talks constantly about doing the right thing, who positions themselves as the moral anchor of their social group? It feels almost rude to look too closely. And that discomfort is the protection they are counting on. What reveals this pattern is not the performance itself. It is the gaps in it. A truly good person does not need to perform goodness. They simply act. Watch what happens when the person who talks most about honesty is caught in a small inconsistency. Watch how they handle it. A person of genuine integrity will acknowledge it and move on. The performer will become defensive, will reframe the situation, will find a way to make the inconsistency your fault for noticing it. Watch how they treat people who are not watching. The person who is warm and generous with you, but dismissive or cold with people who have nothing to offer them, that gap is not an accident. It is data. Watch what they do when they are not receiving validation. The performer runs on an audience. When the applause stops, something shifts. Pay attention to what shifts. The mistake most people make when they start to see through someone like this is that they confront them directly. They bring the evidence, they lay out their case, they expect an honest acknowledgement of what they have seen. This almost never works. The person who has built their entire social positioning around an image of virtue does not have the capacity to step outside of that image gracefully. They will defend it at all costs. They will turn the confrontation into a performance of how wounded they are that you could possibly think this about them. And if you are not careful, you will walk away from that conversation feeling as though you were the one who did something wrong. Machiavelli's advice in situations like this is consistent. Do not announce your departure. Do not stage a confrontation. Do not give them the opportunity to manage the narrative. Simply become less available. Reduce the energy you invest in the relationship. Let the distance increase naturally, without drama, without explanation. They will find another audience. Let them. Your energy belongs somewhere that returns something real. If you are in a conversation right now, maybe not a public one, maybe just with yourself, about someone in your life who fits one of these patterns, I want to say something directly to you. What you are feeling is not paranoia, it is clarity. And clarity, even when it is uncomfortable, is always more valuable than comfortable confusion. The willingness to see things as they actually are, rather than as you wish they were, is one of the rarest and most protective things a person can develop. Most people avoid it because what it requires is the willingness to be temporarily alone rather than permanently surrounded by the wrong people. That is a hard trade, but it is the right one. There is something that gets overlooked in conversations about trust and loyalty. It's the role we play in creating conditions that attract the wrong kind of relationships. This isn't about blame, but about something more useful, understanding. People driven by the desire to be liked send a signal. Most of us operate from that drive more than we'd like to admit. That signal is picked up by people who know how to exploit it. When you always smooth things over, adjust your tone, or apologize reflexively. When you can't tolerate disapproval, you're communicating your operating system. Opportunistic people read that communication accurately. This isn't a character flaw, but a learned behavior. It makes sense given what we're taught about being a good person. But it has a cost. It makes you predictable. And predictable people are easy to manage. When they know you'll prioritize their comfort, they're operating you. The shift isn't about becoming hard or performing indifference. It's something quieter and more internal. It's decoupling your worth from others' immediate response to you. The moment you stop needing approval in real time, something changes. That change is visible. People sense it. They engage differently, not because you demanded it, but because you stopped implicitly inviting the old treatment. Machiavelli's insight. Influence doesn't come from being universally liked. It comes from being genuinely respected. Being liked and being respected are not the same thing. They're built through completely different behaviors. Being liked is built by making people comfortable. Being respected is built by being consistent, clear, and having your word mean something. Your presence carries weight, and reactions aren't easily manufactured. You can be both, but not if the need to be liked is driving the bus. When it is, respect quietly erodes, even if likability stays intact. Let's talk about something practical. All this awareness is only useful if it changes how you operate day to day. The first thing it needs to change is how you process silence. Most people are deeply uncomfortable with silence, especially in tense moments. When a conversation reaches a difficult point, the instinct is to fill the space, to clarify, soften, or offer a laugh that releases the tension. That instinct, as natural as it feels, consistently costs you positioning. The person who can sit in discomfort without rushing to resolve it controls the tempo. Control of tempo is a form of influence most people never develop. Next time someone challenges you, try something different. Do not respond immediately. Do not defend, explain, or work to make the atmosphere lighter. Simply pause. Hold the space. Let the silence exist. Then respond calmly, without urgency, from a place of thought. That pause is not passivity. It is precision. The difference in how you are perceived over time is significant. The second practical shift is about where you put your energy. Every relationship is an exchange, not transactional, but energy flows both ways. When it consistently flows only one way, something is out of balance. Start paying attention to the balance of effort in your key relationships. Who reaches out first? Who makes the plans? Who does the work? Consistent, significant imbalance is information. When you're consistently investing more, you have less leverage. That imbalance shapes the relationship in ways difficult to reverse. The third shift is about your reputation. Not how you present yourself to new people, but patterns with those who know you. Your reputation is not what you say, but what people expect from your consistent actions. If you tolerate behavior that should be addressed, that becomes the standard. If you explain excessively, people learn to apply pressure for more explanation. These patterns don't change themselves. They change when your behavior changes. And then they change slowly as people resist updating their mental model. Adjustments won't produce immediate results. That's important to understand. When results are slow, the temptation is to revert. That reversion is the mistake. Stay consistent. Consistent behavior eventually shifts the baseline expectation. Once the baseline shifts, it tends to hold. There's a final, most important thing. This knowledge is not a weapon. It is a lens. Its purpose is to make you accurate. When you are accurate, you stop wasting energy on the wrong people and start investing in the right ones. They exist. The people who are simply quietly loyal, who don't advertise their character because they don't need to, who show up when it costs them something to show up, who can disagree with you without disappearing, who hold what you share in confidence without conditions, who stand beside you when neutrality would have been easier. These people are real and they are worth everything, but you'll never find them if the landscape is crowded with the wrong people. What Machiavelli understood: clarity is a form of protection. Seeing reality as it is, not as we wish it were, is a survival skill. It leads you somewhere better. You stop building your life on foundations that were never solid. You start building on things that are real, and what is built on real tends to last. So today, do this one thing. Look at your circle with honest eyes. Ask yourself, who has shown you through repeated behavior that they can be trusted? Who has stood beside you when it cost them something? Who holds what you share in confidence without fail? Who shows up consistently, not just when it's easy? That smaller number might feel lonely for a moment, but it is the truth. And the truth, uncomfortable as it sometimes is always the better place to build from. If this conversation opens something for you, leave a comment below. Tell me what shifted for you. This channel exists for serious thinkers. And that community is built one honest voice at a time. Like this video if it earned it. Share it with one person who needs to hear it. And keep watching, because what we're building here makes all the difference. This is Silent Strategist. We will talk again soon.